The year was 2278, and humanity had spread to many star systems. Colonies existed on dozens of planets, connected through advanced jump gates and protected by the United Earth Colonial Fleet. On the bridge of the UES Horizon, Admiral Ju Park stood with perfect posture, her silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a tight bun. The ship was patrolling the edge of human space, a routine mission that had suddenly become anything but routine. "Admiral, I'm detecting an unusual energy signature," Lieutenant Hyun Kim said, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "It's unlike anything in our database." Park moved to his station, leaning in to examine the readings. After 2 decades in space, she had encountered strange phenomena, but never a non-human intelligence. She felt her heart rate increase slightly. "Distance?" she asked. "Approximately 500,000 kilometers and holding steady. The signature appears to be a vessel, but its configuration." Kim trailed off, adjusting the sensors. "It's changing as we watch." Park turned to her communications officer. "Open all frequencies. Prepare first contact protocols." Her voice was calm, but everyone on the bridge understood the gravity of the moment. The main viewer activated, showing the approaching vessel. It defied conventional design. A mass of overlapping geometric patterns that seemed to shift and realign themselves continuously. The structure gleamed with a metallic iridescence that caught light in ways that shouldn't be possible. "That's not built by human hands," whispered Commander Seojin Oh, Park's executive officer. For 3 hours, the Horizon broadcast greetings in all known human languages and mathematical sequences designed to establish basic communication. The alien vessel maintained its position, silent and mysterious. Then, without warning, the ship's communication system activated itself. The holographic display in the center of the bridge flickered and resolved into a humanoid figure. The being was tall and slender, with proportions just slightly wrong for a human. Its skin shimmered with patterns of light that moved beneath the surface. The translator struggled momentarily before producing a voice. "We observe your approach with interest. We are those who traverse the void between existence. Your language approximates us as Void Striders." Admiral Park stepped forward. "I am Admiral Ju Park of the United Earth Colonial Fleet. We welcome peaceful contact with your people." The being tilted its head at an odd angle. "I am designated as interlocutor. You may reference me as Da." The being's eyes, if they could be called eyes, seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Your species has expanded quickly across your local sector. Most young races require centuries to achieve what you have done in decades." Something in Da's tone made Park uneasy. There was a note of condescension, perhaps even concern. "We are explorers," Park replied. "We seek knowledge and peaceful relations with other intelligent life." "Indeed," Da said. "We have observed your methods. Your adaptability is noteworthy." Over the next 3 days, diplomatic talks continued. The Horizon was joined by 2 more human vessels, including the UES diplomat carrying a team of xenolinguists and first contact specialists. The Void Striders revealed little about themselves directly, but patterns emerged from their careful statements. They had existed as a spacefaring civilization for thousands of years. They controlled territory spanning hundreds of star systems. Other species lived under their authority, having been uplifted or integrated into their society. Their technology operated on principles that human science had only begun to theorize about, manipulating quantum states and subspace fields with casual ease. On the 4th day, Park met with her senior staff in the secure conference room. "They're hiding something," said Intelligence Officer Minji Lee. She was the youngest person in the room, but had already proven herself as having sharp instincts. Every time we ask about their history with other species, they redirect. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours," added Science Officer Taehyun Ryu. "The energy output from their vessel is off our measurement scales, and they've demonstrated capabilities that violate what we thought were physical laws." Park nodded. "What's your assessment of their intentions?" Lee crossed her arms. They see us as a curiosity. The way they phrase things, it's as if they're studying an interesting specimen. But I believe they also see us as a potential threat. A threat? Commander O raised an eyebrow. How could we threaten them with their technological advantage? Not now, Lee clarified. But eventually. They keep referring to our rapid adaptation rate and unexpected solutions. I think they're concerned about what we might become. The meeting was interrupted by an alert. Admiral to the bridge, came the urgent call. When Park arrived, the main viewer showed a new development. 3 more Void Strider vessels had appeared, larger than the first. They just appeared. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Kim. No jump signature, no sublight approach. One moment empty space, the next moment. There. Des holographic form appeared without being summoned. We have determined that further evaluation is required. A delegation of assessors will transfer to your vessel. Assessors. Park kept her voice level. We would be happy to continue our cultural exchange, but any boarding party must follow established protocols. Your protocols are noted but unnecessary. Preparation has already begun. Throughout the ship, crew members reported strange energy readings. In the shuttle bay, a swirling vortex of light formed, resolving into 5 Void Striders. Unlike Da, these beings wore what appeared to be armor that flowed like liquid over their bodies. Security teams surrounded them, weapons at the ready but not aimed directly. Lower your defensive implements, said the lead Void Strider. We mean no harm, but resistance would be unfortunate. Park arrived minutes later, maintaining her composure despite the tension. I am Admiral Park. I must insist that you coordinate with us before boarding. The Void Strider regarded her with those light-absorbing eyes. I am Senior Assessor. We have studied 17 of your colonies already. Your species has potential unusual among emergent intelligences. This must be properly classified. The implication hung in the air. They had been watching humanity for some time, without making contact. Classified for what purpose? Park asked. To determine your place, the assessor replied. All intelligences find their position in the order. As the Void Striders began moving through the ship, scanning technology and crew members alike, Park exchanged a glance with Intelligence Officer Lee. The young woman's earlier assessment seemed ever more accurate. Humanity was being evaluated, and the outcome of that evaluation remained unclear. The Void Striders had arrived, and humanity's place in the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the first contact with the Void Striders. What began as tense diplomacy had deteriorated into something far more concerning. Admiral Ju Park stood before the holographic display in the UES Horizons Command Center, studying the reports flooding in from the outer colonies. Another sighting near Europa Colony, Commander Seojin O reported. That's the 5th unannounced appearance this week. Park frowned. The Void Striders had established protocols for contact. Protocols they were now consistently ignoring. Are they responding to hails? No, Admiral. They appear, scan our settlements, and vanish. The colonists are becoming afraid. Park was about to respond when an urgent message flashed across her display. Her stomach tightened as she read the words. Proxima Centauri Research Outpost has gone dark, she said quietly. All communication lost 12 hours ago. Proxima Centauri housed humanity's most advanced xenobiology research facility, with over 200 scientists and support staff. It was also the closest colony to Earth, barely 4 light-years away. Dispatch the UES Sentinel immediately, Park ordered. Full security complement. 3 days later, the Sentinel arrived at Proxima Centauri and transmitted its findings. The outpost was completely empty. No personnel, no bodies, no signs of struggle. The building stood intact, equipment still running, meals half-eaten on tables. In the central laboratory, strange particles hung in the air, defying gravity and glowing with an eerie blue light. Dr. Sun Wukang, the Sentinel's chief science officer, appeared on the transmission. He was a short man with round glasses and a perpetually worried expression, now looking more troubled than ever. "Admiral, I've analyzed the energy residue," he said, holding up the sample container. "This is definitely Void Strider technology. The quantum signature matches what we observed during first contact. I'm certain of it. Park's worst fears were confirmed. Any clue what happened to our people?" Dr. Kang shook his head. "Nothing definitive. But based on these readings, I believe they were transported somewhere. The energy pattern suggests a mass teleportation event." The Admiral wasted no time. She requested an emergency meeting at the neutral space station that had been established for diplomatic relations with the Void Striders. The station orbited in the space between Earth and Mars, designed with both human and Void Strider architecture. The Void Strider emissary arrived punctually. His iridescent skin seemed duller than Park remembered, the patterns of light moving more slowly beneath the surface. "Admiral Park," he said, his translated voice flat, "the collective acknowledges your request for dialogue." "This is not a dialogue," Park said, her voice tight with controlled anger. 218 humans have vanished from Proxima Centauri. We found Void Strider energy signatures at the site. Explain the disappearance of our scientists." De's skin flickered with rapid patterns that made the translator chime with confusion. After a moment, it settled, and he spoke again. "Your species expands too rapidly, too aggressively," he said. "The rate of your technological development exceeds safety parameters. The Void Strider Collective has determined that you require correction or containment." "Correction." Park's voice was dangerously quiet. "What have you done with our people?" "They are being evaluated. Their knowledge is being assessed for risk factors." "Return them immediately," Park demanded. "This is an act of war against United Earth." De's form seemed to grow taller, the light patterns beneath his skin accelerating. "War would be unwise, Admiral. The collective has contained species far more advanced than yours. We offer you a choice. Halt all expansion beyond your current colonies and submit to Void Strider guidance, or face the consequences of your unchecked growth." The recording of this exchange was transmitted back to Earth, where the United Earth Senate convened an emergency session. The debate lasted less than a day, remarkably brief for a governing body known for its deliberation. Senator Shunho Choi, representing the Pacific Alliance, rose to address the chamber. He was an older man, his face lined with experience, his voice still strong despite his years. "Colleagues, we face a moment that will define humanity's future," he began. "The Void Striders offer us safety through submission. They promise to guide our development, to contain our potential within boundaries they deem appropriate." He paused, looking around the chamber. "I say to them, humanity will not be contained by those who fear our potential. We will not surrender our future to those who would make us less than we can be. If the Void Striders cannot accept us as equals in this vast universe, then they will learn to respect us as adversaries." The speech was broadcast to every human settlement across 7 star systems. It became a rallying cry, uniting humanity in a way that centuries of internal divisions never had. The Void Striders' response came 3 weeks later in the Ta Ceti system. The human mining colony there reported a Void Strider vessel appearing near their main settlement. 3 UES ships in the area, the Dauntless, the Relentless, and the Fearless, moved to intercept. What followed was humanity's first space battle against an alien civilization, and it was brutally short. The Void Strider vessel emitted a pulse of energy that seemed to bend space itself. The Relentless and Fearless were torn apart instantly, their atoms scattered across a suddenly distorted region of space. Only the Dauntless survived, thanks to Captain Min Ho-yoon's desperate maneuver to take his ship into the mining colony's atmosphere, using the planet's magnetic field as partial protection. The Dauntless limped back to Earth, its hull breached in 17 places, half its crew dead or severely injured. Captain Yoon stood before the emergency council, his right arm in a medical regenerator. His face still burned on one side. "Their weapons," he said, Voice Horse. They don't just destroy. They unmake reality itself. We fired everything we had. Kinetic rounds, beam weapons, nuclear-tipped missiles. Nothing even reached their hull. It was like shooting at a ghost. Admiral Park listened grimly. As head of the United Earth Colonial Fleet, the responsibility for defending humanity now rested primarily on her shoulders. We cannot match them technologically, she finally told the Council after Yoon finished his report. But we must find another way. Humanity has always been at its best when facing impossible odds. As the Council debated strategy, reports came in of more Void Strider ships appearing near colonies. The pattern was clear. The Void Striders were no longer studying humanity. They were preparing to subdue it. Humanity stood on the edge of a war for its very existence, against an enemy with technology that seemed almost godlike. But as Admiral Park left the council chamber, she found herself remembering something her grandmother had told her long ago. The most dangerous predator is not always the strongest, but the one most willing to adapt. If humanity couldn't match Void Strider's strength, perhaps it could outthink them. The coming conflict would test that theory to its limits. The Void Striders struck without warning. 37 ships appeared simultaneously across human space, targeting the outer colonies first. Their weapons tore through planetary defenses as if they were paper. On New Eden, a farming colony of 3 million people, the entire northern continent was reduced to ash in minutes. Similar reports came from Titan Base, Epsilon Eridani, and a dozen other settlements. Admiral Juu Park watched the casualty reports with a heavy heart. The holographic display in Earth's Central Command showed red indicators spreading across the star map as colony after colony went dark. Millions dead in the first wave alone. "They're not even trying to communicate," said Commander Seojin Oh, his face pale with shock. "This isn't war, it's extermination." Park nodded grimly. "Deploy all available ships to evacuate the remaining outer colonies. Priority to civilians and essential personnel." She turned to her communications officer. "Send word to all colonies. Implement Protocol Dark Shield." Protocol Dark Shield was a contingency plan created after the Ta City incident. All colonies would shut down regular communications, switch to narrow beam transmissions only, and activate the experimental quantum disruption fields that Earth scientists had been developing. It wasn't much, but it bought time. The Void Striders seemed confused by the sudden communications blackout. Their methodical advance faltered as human ships darted between attack points, evacuating colonies before disappearing again. 3 weeks into what became known as the Shadow War, Dr. Hanyul Yoon requested an urgent meeting with the military council. He was a thin, nervous man who rarely left his laboratory on Luna, but today he stood before Earth's military leadership with unusual confidence. "I've discovered something," he said, activating his own holographic display. It showed complex patterns of energy that shifted and pulsed. "These are recordings of Void Strider communications during their attacks." General Jin Woo-baek, head of Earth's ground forces, frowned. "We know they use some form of quantum communication, Doctor, but we haven't been able to intercept or decode it." "That's because we've been thinking about it wrong," Dr. Yoon replied. "They don't communicate the way we do. They don't transmit information. They share consciousness through quantum entanglement." He manipulated the display, zooming in on particular patterns. "Look here. These frequency patterns repeat regardless of distance or time. Their entire fleet operates as a single entity, sharing information instantaneously across any distance." Admiral Park leaned forward. "And this helps us how, Doctor?" Dr. Yoon smiled for the first time. "Because any system, no matter how advanced, has rules. Their quantum entanglement relies on specific frequency patterns that we can disrupt." He pressed a button, and the complex patterns on the display suddenly fragmented and dissolved. "We can't block their communication entirely, but we can introduce noise into their system. It would be like trying to have a conversation while 1,000 people scream in your ears." The military council authorized immediate deployment of the quantum disruptors. The devices were small enough to be carried by stealth drones, which were launched toward Void Strider formations throughout human space. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Void Strider attacks that had been precisely coordinated became disjointed and confused. Ships that had moved in perfect unison now collided with each other or fired at empty space. Taking advantage of the confusion, Captain Minjin Quan proposed a daring plan. A veteran of special operations, Quan had studied the Void Striders' attack patterns and noticed something important. They always have one ship that hangs back from the main attack. He explained to Admiral Park. I believe it houses their command structure. If we could capture it. Park approved the mission despite its extreme risk. Quan assembled a team of 30 operatives, each equipped with the latest stealth technology and prototype weapons designed specifically to counter Void Strider defenses. Their target was a Void Strider command vessel orbiting the ruins of Titan Base. Using the quantum disruptors to mask their approach, Quan's team boarded the alien ship through a maintenance port. The interior was a maze of shifting corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves constantly, but Quan's team pushed forward. In the central chamber, they encountered the Void Strider commander, a towering being with 6 limbs and skin that glowed with internal light. The battle was brief but violent. 15 humans died, but they succeeded in neutralizing the Void Strider crew and capturing the commander. The alien vessel was towed to a secret facility in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. There, under heavy guard, scientists and intelligence officers began the difficult process of interrogating the captured commander. Initial attempts at communication failed completely. The Void Strider refused to respond to any questions or stimuli. It was Dr. Minji Lee, the xenolinguist who had served with Admiral Park during first contact, who made the breakthrough. They don't think as individuals, she explained. They're connected to a hive mind. Without that connection, this one is essentially catatonic. Dr. Yoon's team created a controlled quantum link that simulated the Void Strider network. When activated, the commander's skin immediately brightened, and it began to communicate. What they learned changed everything. The Void Striders were not a single species, but a collective of at least 7 distinct genetically engineered castes, all controlled by a central hierarchy called the Directorate. They had existed for thousands of years, moving through the galaxy in waves of expansion and consolidation. Their pattern was always the same. Find species with potential, test them through progressively more difficult challenges, and then either absorb the worthy into their collective or eliminate those deemed too independent or aggressive. Captain Quan reported these findings to the War Council. They'd done this before, dozens of times, he said. They find species with potential, test them, and either absorb or eliminate them. Why are they so threatened by us? Asked Senator Chono Choi, who had joined the council as civilian representative. Because we're different, Quan replied. Every other species they've encountered either submitted or was destroyed quickly. They've never encountered resistance like ours, a species that adapts so quickly to their tactics. It's confusing them. Admiral Park sat silently, absorbing this information. After a long moment, she spoke. If they're confused now, we need to make them more confused. It's time for Operation Longshot. Operation Longshot was a strategy so risky that many on the council had dismissed it when first proposed. Instead of merely defending human space, humanity would take the fight directly to the Void Striders. Using the information extracted from the captured commander, they would strike at the heart of Void Strider territory. We cannot win a war of attrition, Park told the council. Every day, more colonies fall. We must change the nature of this conflict. Humanity will not wait to be erased. We will bring the fight to them. As preparations for Operation Longshot accelerated, guerrilla attacks against Void Strider forces intensified. Human ships, much smaller and more maneuverable than their alien counterparts, struck quickly and disappeared before the Void Striders could respond. For the first time since the war began, humanity seized the initiative. The Shadow War had entered a new phase, and the Void Striders were about to learn that humans were the most dangerous when cornered. The massive hangar bay beneath the lunar surface buzzed with activity. Engineers and scientists swarmed over the captured Void Strider vessel, carefully dismantling systems and studying components that still defied human understanding. 8 months into the war, humanity had managed to capture 3 alien ships intact, a remarkable achievement considering the technological gap between the species. Admiral Ju Park walked alongside Dr. Yunho Ri, the brilliant physicist who headed the reverse engineering project. Ri was a small woman with close-cropped hair and perpetual dark circles under her eyes from too little sleep. But today, her expression was animated, almost excited. "We've made a breakthrough," she told Park, leading her to a sealed laboratory. "The Void Strider propulsion system isn't actually faster than light travel as we understand it. They're creating localized tiers in space-time that allow them to step through from one point to another." Park nodded. "Can we replicate it?" "Not yet, but we've adapted their shield technology." Ri activated a display showing a new design for human ships. This configuration redirects energy attacks back into subspace. We've already installed prototypes on the Defiant-class ships. The adaptation of Void Strider technology transformed the human fleet. Ships that once had to flee from alien weapons could now withstand direct hits. New offensive systems, based on the captured technology, gave humanity its first real chance to fight back. The Arcturus colony became the testing ground for these new capabilities. When sensors detected a Void Strider attack fleet approaching the system, the largest concentration of alien vessels seen to date, Admiral Park made a daring decision. Instead of evacuating the colony, she ordered half the human fleet to make a stand there. "This ends today," she told her officers. "We show them that humans can't be erased so easily." The battle began at dawn, Earth Standard Time. 57 human ships against 23 Void Strider vessels. In previous engagements, such numbers would have meant certain defeat for humanity. But the upgraded fleet performed beyond all expectations. The Void Striders opened with their standard attack pattern, a simultaneous strike designed to overwhelm defenses in the first moments of battle. Their energy weapons lashed out, but instead of cutting through human ships, they splashed harmlessly against the new shields or were redirected back toward their sources. On the bridge of the UES Horizon, Tactical Officer Jeong Ba monitored the enemy movements. She was young for her position, but her intuitive understanding of combat strategies had earned her the role. "They're regrouping for another standard attack run," she reported to Admiral Park. "Their technology is advanced, but their thinking is rigid. They keep applying the same solutions, expecting different results." Park nodded. "Let's show them something new. Execute Maneuver Hydra." The human fleet, which had maintained a defensive formation, suddenly split into 7 smaller groups that attacked from multiple vectors simultaneously. The Void Strider formation broke apart in confusion as they attempted to counter threats from all directions. For the first time in the war, a human weapon pierced a Void Strider hull. The modified beam weapon from the UES Dauntless cut through the alien ship's defenses, splitting it nearly in half. The vessel didn't explode. Instead, it seemed to fold in upon itself before vanishing in a flash of blue light. "Target neutralized," reported Captain Min Ho Yoon from the Dauntless. The joy in his voice was unmistakable. The battle raged for 6 hours. Human casualties were severe. 23 ships lost, thousands of crew members dead or injured. But the Void Strider fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single alien vessel escaped. News of the victory spread rapidly through human space. Colonies that had lived in fear for months celebrated openly. More importantly, the captured data from the battle provided new insights into Void Strider systems. Dr. Yunho Ri's team made another critical discovery while analyzing this data. In a secured laboratory beneath the lunar surface, she briefed Admiral Park and the military council on her findings. "The Void Striders aren't just connected through quantum communication," she explained, displaying a complex diagram. "Their entire system is connected through a neural network. Their ships, their weapons, even their bodies, all integrated into a single system. A weakness, General Jinwoo Baek asked immediately. Ri nodded. A significant one. Introduce the right code sequence, and we can disrupt their entire command structure. She manipulated the display, showing a simulation of cascading failures throughout a Void Strider network. It's like introducing a virus into a computer system, except this virus affects their biological components as well as their technology. The Military Council approved the development of what became known as the Ri Protocol, a viral payload designed to infiltrate and disrupt the Void Strider neural network. Delivery would be the greatest challenge. The payload needed to be deployed deep within Void Strider territory, near what they believed was a central command node. Captain Minjin Kwan, the Special Forces commander who had captured the first Void Strider officer, volunteered to lead the mission. His team had spent months studying Void Strider movement patterns and security protocols. We've identified a path through their defensive grid, he told Admiral Park. If we use ships equipped with their own propulsion technology, we can appear and disappear before they realize we're there. The mission required 10 stealth ships, each carrying a portion of the viral payload. If even one reached the target, the mission could succeed. All volunteers understood the near certainty that they would not return. The fleet departed from a hidden base in the Kuiper Belt, far from any colony that might be monitored by Void Strider forces. They used a series of micro-jumps, appearing and disappearing across vast distances to avoid detection. Against all odds, 7 of the 10 ships reached their target, a massive Void Strider structure orbiting a neutron star. The viral payload was deployed simultaneously from multiple points, overwhelming the alien defenses. The effect was immediate and spread farther than anyone had anticipated. Throughout human space, Void Strider ships suddenly powered down or began operating erratically. Some fired upon each other. Others simply drifted, their internal systems in chaos. From his observation post at the edge of the Ta-City system, Commander Dawen Shin watched in amazement as the Void Strider blockade that had held the system captive for months suddenly broke apart. Something's happening, he reported to Earth Command. Their ships are withdrawing, but not in any organized fashion. It's almost like they're being called back. Similar reports came in from across human space. The Void Strider forces weren't retreating in a tactical withdrawal. They were fleeing in disarray, as if responding to some imperceptible command that overrode all other objectives. Admiral Park ordered no pursuit. Let them go, she told her officers. Secure our colonies and prepare defensive positions. This isn't over yet. But privately, she allowed herself a moment of hope. For the first time since the war began, humanity had forced the Void Striders to retreat. The species that had swept aside all previous opposition had finally met its match. In her quarters that night, Park viewed the casualty reports from the mission. Of the 70 Special Forces operators who had volunteered, only 12 had returned. Captain Kwan was not among them. His last transmission, sent moments before his ship self-destructed to prevent capture, was brief. For Earth, Park made a silent promise to the fallen. Their sacrifice would not be in vain. Humanity would rebuild, stronger than before, ready for whatever came next. Because one thing was now certain, the Void Striders had underestimated humanity's capacity to adapt, and they were paying the price for that miscalculation. For 3 years after the Ri Protocol was deployed, humanity lived in a state of cautious optimism. The Void Striders had retreated, but Admiral Ju Park insisted on maintaining military readiness. New colonies were established with powerful defense systems. The fleet grew stronger each month, incorporating more adapted Void Strider technology. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday, something extraordinary happened. All Void Strider activity across known space simply stopped. Admiral, you need to see this, Commander Seojin-Oh said, rushing into Park's office at Earth Command. His face showed a mixture of confusion and hope. Long-range sensors show no Void Strider ships anywhere in monitored space, not a single one. Park frowned. Could they be using a new cloaking technology? We don't think so. We've sent probes to their known outposts. "They're empty, Admiral. Completely abandoned." Over the next few weeks, exploration vessels cautiously approached areas previously controlled by the Void Striders. They found abandoned stations, powered-down ships drifting in space, and deserted outposts. There were no signs of battle, no evidence of any catastrophe. It was as if an entire civilization had simply walked away, leaving everything behind. "I don't understand," Dr. Yunho Ri said during the emergency council meeting. "The viral payload was designed to disrupt their command structure, not whatever this is." Admiral Park studied the reports with narrowed eyes. "Assemble an expedition. We need to find answers." The expedition was led by Professor Juan Moon, Earth's foremost expert on Void Strider language and culture. Her team included scientists, military personnel, and specialists in alien technology. Their destination was a massive structure that intelligence had identified as a potential Void Strider central world, a planet-sized installation that appeared to serve as a hub for their activities. When they arrived, they found it intact but deserted, just like every other Void Strider facility. The team moved cautiously through vast chambers, filled with technology beyond human understanding. In the central core, they discovered what appeared to be a massive database, a repository of information spanning thousands of years. Professor Moon worked day and night to access and translate the data. What she found stunned her team. "They knew about us," she reported to Admiral Park via quantum communication. "Not just recently, they had encountered humans in what they called a previous cycle. They'd been watching us for thousands of years." The database revealed an unsettling truth. The Void Striders were not simply conquerors or explorers. They were custodians of a cycle that had repeated many times throughout galactic history. They engineered themselves to seek out species with potential and test them through escalating challenges. According to their records, Moon continued, "Most species either surrender and join their collective, or fight and are destroyed. We're the first species to successfully resist without being annihilated." "But where did they go?" Park asked the question, troubling everyone. Moon hesitated. "That's where it gets strange. The final entries in their database become increasingly philosophical. They question their purpose, their methods. It seems our resistance triggered some kind of existential crisis within their collective consciousness." The final translated message from the Void Strider archives was cryptic. "The cycle breaks with those who survive their own nature." Moon's team spent months studying the abandoned Void Strider world. They discovered technologies that accelerated human development by centuries. Faster propulsion systems, energy production that bordered on unlimited medical advances that could extend human lifespans dramatically, all left behind by a civilization that had simply vanished. "Could they have transcended physical form?" suggested Dr. Hanyul Yoon during one of the analysis sessions. "Their neural network had achieved a level of collective consciousness we can barely comprehend. Perhaps they evolved beyond the need for physical bodies. Or maybe they left this galaxy entirely," countered Professor Moon. "Their records mention realms beyond that they had glimpsed but never explored." The truth remained elusive, but humanity didn't waste the opportunity presented. The knowledge and technology left behind by the Void Striders fueled a new era of expansion and discovery. Colonies spread farther into the galaxy, now protected by defensive systems that could withstand almost any threat. But caution remained. Admiral Park, promoted to Fleet Admiral and later serving as Secretary of Defense, insisted that humanity prepare for the Void Striders' possible return. "If they've watched us for thousands of years," she often said, "they could be watching us still." 50 years passed. The war became history, taught in schools but experienced by fewer survivors each year. A memorial installation orbited Earth, containing the complete history of the conflict and artifacts recovered from Void Strider outposts. Admiral Park, now in her final years, visited the academy to speak with new cadets. Though her body had weakened with age, her mind remained as sharp as ever, her eyes still carrying the intensity that had guided humanity through its darkest hours. A young cadet raised her hand during the question period. "Admiral, do you think they'll ever come back?" Park looked out at the sea of young faces. These cadets had been born in a time of peace and prosperity, built upon the technologies left behind by a vanished enemy. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But I believe they tested us. Perhaps they found us worthy, or perhaps they found us too dangerous. Either way, we stand here today because we refuse to vanish." She gestured toward the window, where the blue curve of Earth was visible against the black of space. The Void Striders had technology that made them nearly godlike by our standards. They could have destroyed us completely if that had been their only goal. Instead, they challenged us, pushed us to our limits, and then left. The auditorium was silent as the cadets considered her words. "I think," Park continued, "they were looking for something. Perhaps a successor, perhaps equals. The stars belong to humanity now, not as conquerors, but as guardians of a legacy we still don't fully understand." After the lecture, Park visited the memorial alone. She stood before the central display, which showed the translated final message from the Void Strider archives. The cycle breaks with those who survive their own nature. She'd spent decades pondering those words. The simplest interpretation was that the Void Striders had been caught in a cycle of their own making, testing species, absorbing or destroying them, then moving on. But humanity had somehow broken that cycle by surviving while remaining true to its essential nature. As she turned to leave, Park noticed a slight shimmer in the air near the display. For just a moment, she thought she saw a familiar pattern of light, like those that had moved beneath Dae's skin during their first meeting so many years ago. Then it was gone, if it had ever been there at all. Just a trick of aging eyes, perhaps, or perhaps a reminder that in this vast universe, nothing truly vanishes without a trace.